All right, we're live. Welcome to TableTalk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Luck Gamer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Glue Boy.
Heyo, here I am.
And you almost didn't make it today. Would you like to
Almost
talk
didn't.
about everything that's been happening lately?
Oh my fucking god.
I know it's a story.
It's a lot. It's a lot over like 3 days. But I guess you know what? Since I have like the first big thing to talk about for our actual subject, what have you been up to, Cam? How's it been going for you?
Hard. Because I've been scrambling to get everything like set and done. We did a bunch of shopping. We got all the snacks like yesterday and some other things the day before. I said screw sanding the deck because there's just so many rotted boards that I'm just gonna have to replace them anyway.
Yeah, true.
So we went out and got like Costco fortunately had like these outdoor carpets or rugs that were like $17. So we just got like 4 of those and just coated the deck. And they're like pretty decent. So they're like 6x9 or something like that. So overall was pretty effective, but also I got to at some point spray a couple wasp nests, which is gonna be fun.
That'll be fun.
And then yesterday I was trying to cook stir fry, and I was like, okay, I can use spray on stuff. No, that's not how you do stir fry. You need oil. You need lots of oil, and we did not have that much oil on hand, so it was a very smoky day in the house yesterday. I got it all cooked, and it was also unfortunate because I like to make like jalapeno noodles for the stir fry. Get some spicy noodles. Didn't have oil for the noodles, but I saw a bunch of jalapenos I'm not going to use otherwise. So I just used butter. So they turned into buttery, spicy noodles, which was very strange.
That sounds like a really weird mix.
It was a very strange mix. It didn't turn out bad.
It doesn't. I don't imagine it was bad. It's just those tastes where you're like, I don't know if these two go together. I'm thinking of all like spicy food. It's never buttery.
Yeah, well, what it did really, because stir fry noodles, like you cook it up with the soy sauce, so it gives it kind of like a salty flavor, gives it this nice like caramelized coating in a sense.
Yeah.
The butter just kind of made it like saltier, but like not harshly saltier, because the butter kind of like smoothed it out a little bit. It's very strange.
Interesting.
It wasn't bad, but again, was just not what I was looking for. So learned some lessons on that for sure. But yeah, otherwise it's just been cleaning and getting stuff ready, and also recording a bunch, as like I think people who look at YouTube think, man, what an easy job. You just sit in front of a computer. Like, the hardest part has got to be like editing. And I'll tell you, if you want to be heard by like your microphone or your audio, you got to project your voice, and it hurts your diaphragm. So like it's literally been like, all right, I finally have time to record. I bust out like 40 minutes of recording, and then I gotta rest for like an hour because my diaphragm hurts, and then get more stuff out. But yeah, so other than, like the small things, it's just been busy. I am excited to have everyone over, but I can't wait for everything to be done so that I can just focus on YouTube and work my butt off, because I've really been wanting to do that, and I really have. If anyone's been watching on like Twitter or stuff, the channel's been getting a lot of attention. It's been really good, but
yeah, you've been Twitter popping off, going a little like Twitter famous.
A little, well, in the TTRPG space anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, is the field you want to pop off in.
True. So now I've done mine. What's been up with you?
So this week has been something. Really something. I set out beginning of this week to which is 3 goals. 3 goals in mind. And I was like, perfect. I had everything planned out. I had everything scheduled day by day to be perfect. And then I go on this trip, hang out with my friends for a week, meeting some in person for the first time, just having a bit of a vacation. Oh, also just taking this little vacation time to work on a big high effort video I've kind of been putting off since my writing schedule is really short, condensed. I only have like 2 or 3 days to actually get something done, and this project I'm working on requires a lot of research. A lot of stuff because I want to go crazy, and it's specifically meant to one-up the only other existing format of video in the 40k space, which is dog shit, not very good. Sorry, Ben, but if you have some poorly mixed audio with you playing over 40k video games, it's not very interesting of a video. Even then, the research was alright. But my 3 goals. Go to work every day. Goal 2. Make sure everything is ready so I am properly just set up, healthy, and happy. Healthy is the very key word for this. On the trip over at your place. And then the third one is get 4 videos done in this week so I can put it all out and I can just kind of lean back and know the YouTube engagement's coming in. The first one to fail was go to work every week because I was ready. I talked myself in on Sunday. I was all happy and ready, feeling great. I woke up at 1 a.m. sick to my stomach and I started vomiting. Horribly. I spent Sunday night throwing up, sick to my stomach with symptoms that are literally exactly like the time when I was 13 years old and had swine flu. And it was rough. Couldn't work, obviously. And I was just kind of couldn't do anything. Monday is the day I record, by the way. That's one of my recording days. Obviously, that didn't happen. And then I woke up Tuesday, I was completely fine. I was just fixed. I don't know what the fuck happened. There's nothing that could have happened to get me sick. And specifically, my girlfriend was like, is this like food poisoning or something? It's like, no, I've had food poisoning. This ain't it. This feels like swine flu, which I've had, and it fucking sucks. Second one, because of this trip, just unknown fact for on your end, you scheduled this trip, and right in the middle of it was my doctor's appointment to re-up my Adderall prescription. I had to reschedule it, and then realize like a few days ago, oh shit, that appointment is specifically to retouch my prescription. I should figure that out. I'm running very low right now, and if this doesn't get handled, I'm gonna be stuck over there, and also just stuck for a week and a half without my medication, going through Adderall withdrawal symptoms. That doesn't sound fun. I want to enjoy myself with my friends. And I had to call my local hospital that I deal with. A hospital that's kind of known to just not return your phone calls sometimes. Especially because little known to me, there is a specific phone line of like that, you know, that robot branching dialogue tree of self-help like phone stuff that specifically goes to if you have any problems or anything you need to do about your like prescriptions, press 2. It's like, easy money. It's my problem. He said it right at the start too. I tried a couple times. Turns out that line goes directly to a voicemail that'll never be heard by a living human. There is no one on the other end of that phone. It goes right to a voicemail.
Yeah.
Kind of rough. Until eventually, literally just today, I was able to get a living fucking human on the phone because I kept trying other things. I left voicemails. Sometimes they take a couple days to get to you. But essentially, my deadline was tomorrow because they close on the weekends. And I'm only able to fill my prescription at my local Rite Aid. It's the only place that I can get it filled. So, it took a bit just to get someone on the phone and be like, listen, dude, I'm in fucking dire straits. I need this solved as soon as possible. Please get me my prescription re-upped. And apparently, today I called them because I'm like, I didn't hear anything. Just they got it all fixed yesterday and didn't fucking tell me. No one notified me that the problem was completely solved. Like, oh yeah, we did all of this, we filled it all out. We were just gonna tell you later. It's like, when later? Yeah, you know, later. It's like, cool, okay. So just, I was freaking the fuck out yesterday and no one verified my problem was solved and ready to be adjusted. Cool, thanks guys. So happy with how this is done. And then thirdly, I've been without internet since Monday. Because suddenly, on Monday, my roommates were like, oh, this is kind of weird. Hey Alex, like, can't get any internet. I'm the guy who set up the internet plan. It's in my name. I'm the only guy that actually can handle it because they need my driver's license to do anything. So, there's no Wi-Fi. All right, I'm a bit of a troubleshooter. I've worked on machines, you know. I can deal with this. Going through it, there's no fucking reason why this shit shouldn't be working. Because apparently we had a Wi-Fi signal. You could connect to it. It would just connect without internet. And the main problem is, I found this out today, we had 2% total uptime. Like, the basically enough that the signal is present and like in the cosmos, wherever fucking Wi-Fi lives, I don't know. But if you connect to it, it was just too slow that your phone would be like, nah. So I had to go through with this. I called Spectrum support. Luckily, Spectrum customer service is actually really fucking goated, and they're very cool. They're so actually helpful because they're also like, what the fuck? Why is this thing like this? That's stupid. Let me fix that for you. Going through it, like, okay. So it looks like you need to replace your modem. Like, okay, I'll go replace my modem tomorrow morning. I went and did that. Put in the modem, it connects. Then the router won't connect. Just the router. Just stop working. It's like, oh, fucking okay. Which, you know what, on me, the lady at the Spectrum store was like, oh yeah, this also might be a router thing. You probably have to bring that in. It's like, I don't know, the phone guy like told me it's my modem, but if it is, I'll be back. And I did in fact come back with my router. And I got a brand new router. Because fun fact, 9 days ago, Spectrum put out a fucking new fun update without notifying their customers, or at least notifying me, that for my internet plan, a pretty nice internet plan, they put out a brand new firmware update and a new router, a really nice fancy one that looks like a cylinder. It's a big cylinder shape.
Yeah.
And apparently it's real nice. I was like, oh, okay, cool, new router. Oh, okay, so they put out a thing that just bricked my system. Is that the problem? It's like, probably. All right, here's your new router. Just plug it in. She specifically said it's just a plug and play. You put it in and you're set. Put it in, nothing. Doesn't work. Red light. Will not connect. Same issue. Like, with my new modem and a new router, nothing. Signal's still out, but I can't actually do anything. So, okay, I bring it back and I'm like, or no, I call this phone line again. I get another very helpful like customer service guy who's like, what? This is weird. This is all brand new. This is strange. This is also happening kind of often. A lot of customers are having issues with the new router. It's like, cool, okay, you put out tech that doesn't work. Very cool, Spectrum. Like, this is a great move y'all made. And I bring it back. This is 3 times I've been to the Spectrum store. Thank God it's 5 minutes away from my house. Right next to a Dairy Queen. I never hit the Dairy Queen because I was busy, but, you know. Just finally, I come back in, and I'm like, okay, this router doesn't work. And I was told by customer support, like, to just bring it in because it's probably broken. And she's like, that's weird. Okay. Then she gave me a new one. I tried it again. Ready. Hopeful. Finally. The problem was a broken router that they gave me for some reason. Same issue. Just didn't fucking work. So now I had another situation where on that previous phone call, I also set up a technician to come by today, this morning, Thursday morning, which finally happened. And he went through it and he's like, it's apparently the modem was fucked, which is weird because it was working fine until yesterday where it completely shit itself and stopped working. So I don't know. It's a lot of tech that kept failing because like I'd turn around and I'd look back at it again and the lights were different. That's what happened every time I looked at these things. It was so fucking annoying. But we moved it, got everything set up now. So now I have internet, fucking finally. And also, just one little cherry on top for this like fuck Spectrum, except for Spectrum customer support kind of rant. Turns out they increased my internet plan. They changed my internet and are charging me more for literally nothing. I went to the Spectrum store and they were like, yeah, you're on this gig plan. It's pretty nice. Like, so I'm wondering, she's like wondering, okay, so you qualify for this plan, but you're not on that plan. You're on a more expensive plan. Like, what? Yeah, you're in a grandfathered gig plan is what it was called. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, well, yeah, that's not the highest tier. We don't have a tier above that. So you're just being charged $15 a month more for literally nothing. And then she looked more, it's like, there's no record of you changing this. There's no record of anybody changing this. It just says I had it. I know for a fucking fact if I go back a decent amount, it is my normal internet bill that I signed on with. Some undetermined time ago, they increased my internet bill to $140 a month without fucking telling me. And so now I have working internet, but I have to keep a very close eye on my Spectrum bill every month and make sure they're not trying to pull this shit again. So I have to call them and be like, hey, fix that. Don't charge me more. Give me my money back. So that has been my week. A lot of things fucking up. Because yeah, I couldn't put out a video today because one, besides the fact that I had no internet to post a video, I also just wasn't in the mood to be funny. I was fucking pissed and very annoyed, and also just kind of bummed that all this shit kept happening. Specifically when I'm trying to plan this so I can go to Cam's for a week and like hang out, have fun, record videos. That has been my week. It has been fucking ass, and I'm very happy that literally today everything's solved. Because yeah, I now have my Adderall prescription. They refilled it. I got it done like 30 minutes before this call. And yeah, everything I need is ready for the trip now. On Thursday, when I had it prepped to be solved, like on like Tuesday. Quite fun. Also, incredibly pissed I missed Pathfinder. I really wanted to do that fight. All the loot sounded really fun. I was very sad looking into the Discord. Just like, I wish I was there. I want to be there, man.
Yeah. yeah, it was interesting. A very interesting session, and the curse of Riptide Season 2 just holds firm of just everyone not being there for some reason.
For some reason, I was like, I wanted to be there so bad. I just wanted to play Pathfinder. We were all gonna be there, and then fucking internet said no. So annoying. That was one of the most pissed I've been just on Tuesday, just running back and forth for like 3 hours. The entire time y'all were playing Pathfinder, I was running around trying to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Literally until that final hour, like around 7, I was like, okay, I just can't fucking do anything, I guess. I just don't play Pathfinder today. That's super annoying.
Yeah, you even got a new spell book and everything.
Yeah, I looked it up on Archive of Nethys, but it wasn't a spell book, so I was like, what do I get? What spells do I have? It's just the item is just looks like a mobile bag of holding, or I guess just a bag of holding for weapons.
It
you
is.
Like unfurl it. Oh, okay. But I assume it has spells with it in this version.
There are spells in it as well. Yeah, I said it during the session, so.
Okay, yeah, because I thought it had spellbook in parentheses, and I looked at it in Archive Nethys and I'm like, this ain't a spellbook. I wonder what's in it. It must be modified then.
It is modified, yeah. But yeah. So it's been a week, and it's just like it is how it is, right? This is just, it's right before something big is about to happen. Everything that's gonna go wrong is going wrong. I'm like starting to sweat too, because it happened last time, but like it's because everything is happening. I still haven't heard from Paizo about my review request yet, so fingers crossed I get my Rage Development stuff, because I've been like...
Is it going to be physical stuff they send you, or is it...
No, it's a PDF they always send.
Damn.
I need 10k subs to get a physical book.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, shipping stuff's expensive, but like, I wanted to like look at it while I was there and be like, ooh, metal kineticist.
I'm very stoked for Rage of Elements, and if
So
I had to
pumped.
come out late with it, so be it. I'll work many days in a row if I have to, like I did for Dark Archive. So
To be honest, if it's anything like Dark Archive, you're gonna be the only one going through all of the fucking player material.
yeah, right.
Because like everyone else just does like kineticist, and it's like, yeah, but there's other stuff. Like, what about the archetypes? What about some fun new items that you can get? Like stuff that actually the players need, not stuff that DMs need.
Yeah, it's so we'll see, right? But I'm bound and determined to put in the work. I've been pretty much the hardest working person in the Pathfinder 2 space of the last like month or so. I've been
Fair.
pumping out tons of content. I've started a new set of shorts as well, and I've also been like interacting really well on Twitter. Like, it's been feeling good, but it's also a lot of effort in addition to home ownership. So it's been a lot. Especially because recently we got our hot water heater replaced, and they came and they're like, that like a breaker for your hot water heater is not the right size.
Huh.
I
Like
don't know how this got cleared by the county. If we have a short, the wires will just melt.
So wait, the new one is too small, or the one you had before?
The one we had before and the new one is the
Okay.
wiring. We need a new
Oh.
breaker, so we had to hire an
God.
electrician to come out. And I've actually been meaning to call them back. I was talking to them last week, and they never got back to me again after I talked to them the first time. And this week I've been meaning to, but I've literally been too busy to like make time for a phone call.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I gotta get that done soon-ish. I don't think anything will happen. It's just kind of one of those, in case something bad goes wrong, it'll be a very expensive fix wiring wise.
Yeah, it's like there's a problem that could come of it, but it's like it's not gonna happen tomorrow. It's just if something happens, it could be really fucking bad. Which, yeah, fair. Get that fixed. Cause also like, what the who built this home?
Well,
What-
the
what
thing
happened?
is it's like, I think it's our neighbor actually who had this house before, and he did a lot of. He's been a builder his whole life, I've been told by some of our neighbors, and so I think he just did it all himself. And I hate people who are like that because they're like, "Oh yeah, I mean it works," and that's like their methodology.
Yeah, there's a specific guy or like internet legend thing. There it is, Grover House. Do you know about Grover House at all?
No.
I'm not gonna go super in depth into it. I can recommend a great fucking video. This podcast that Frederick Knudsen, the guy who does Down the Rabbit Hole, is. There's a guy on a forum. It was on, I think, let's see. Oh yeah, it was on the Something Awful forums back in like 2006. But it's this guy who is building his own home and then was cataloging it, the process, and was fucking up literally every step of the process.
Yeah.
Like the kind of thing where you look at a picture of the house and you're just like, this looks wrong, and then you kind of like see more of it. Like, yeah, the stairs, every stair step is insulated. That's not where insulation goes. Certain things are placed like why do you have like an overhang garage set up? Like,
Yeah.
bunch of very strange things. Specifically building it in like this really nice land. They're trying to do foundational work on a land that is basically a swamp without any training on how to do it. Like, it's a person who's YouTube like internet certified building this, and like he was a mod and banned a lot of people who were like, oh hey, I'm a construction worker, you're doing that wrong, and he'd like ban you. It's a really interesting story if you delve into it, but that's all I picture when I think of those DIY guys, is the dudes just like, I know what I'm doing. Oh yeah, load-bearing drywall. That was the meme that came from it. He had a
Load-bearing drywall.
Yes, because if you look at some of the construction pictures, there is literally a drywall wall that is positioned in the same area as like what you would have a load-bearing wall. It's like you should have a load-bearing pillar there, and it was drywall.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really funny.
And leave me alone. First of all, I saw your messages on YouTube. You don't need to worry. You can be on whatever platform you choose to. Second, I do not take any building or house stuff offline from YouTube chats. I'll leave it to the professionals. And to answer a question from Dark Ender earlier, it doesn't really matter how old the house is, because in order to sell your house, they need to like review your house. The county needs to verify that the house is, you know, safe to live in. So.
Yeah, it's a whole process to actually build your own home, and then hopefully you live in an area where inspectors actually do their job.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't.
Sometimes they don't, or they miss things. It's one of those things.
Family and real estate. I've heard many stories from that, and let me on stream. It's not really something we do. You toss it in the Discord though that we got. Linked in like Cam's bios. There's people who go over that happily with you, like build nerds.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you say your certifications are. There's no way for us to verify anything like that, so it's just a good rule of thumb. Don't take advice online. Let someone come and do it. And a professional did come in and look, and it showed. So, you know, for people who install water heaters all the time, I'm sure they know at least everything involving water heaters. In any regard, it's something that needs to get done. It's gonna be like $300 or something, but it's not that big deal. My mom's in charge of the house anyway, so it's up to her to get it fixed.
I was hoping, like, with all these fixes, I'm like, I really hope Cam's not the one footing the bill.
No, not for most of the stuff. There's some stuff that we do for, like, getting sandpaper and all that stuff for the sander or whatever, but...
Yeah, that makes sense.
But a lot of it is my mom. And it's just, you know... And I used to do home inspection for reporting agencies, insurance companies, and I'm very aware of the number of times it's just... Sometimes people just fuck up. They just miss something, or they just don't do the job. There's so many times it's like all these construction companies. I remember I went to someone's house and I took a picture of the roof and I'm like, hey, you got lifting shingles? And she's like, I just had someone install these shingles last week. I'm like, well, you got lifting shingles, so if you don't get that looked at, there's a high chance of moisture getting into, you know, under the shingles, ripping your shingles off, maybe even getting into your house rafters. So, like, even professionals fuck it up all the time, or cut corners.
And like malicious levels of that, which is the things I know about, not specifically for like home insurance or anything like that, the preemptive house buying inspection stuff, where say the seller is, for those in chat who don't know, my parents are real estate agents. I grew up with them doing a lot of real estate stuff, and I've actually helped them in a decent chunk of stuff back home when I was living with them. But mainly a thing that can happen sometimes if you're dealing with someone who's a little less than reputable on either side of the real estate game, someone who knows, like a team of home inspectors, specifically home inspectors, can bring somebody in that they know will like let some things slide, not fully do their job so they can appraise something at a different level. And then the buyer comes in with their own home inspector and then it's like, this house is fucked. What is going on here? Who's doing it? Like, it has that like hair pulling, why is it wired like this? You shouldn't have your plumbing set up this way. What is this? And like, because it's all a thing of if the house is really fucked, a lot of times the seller on the seller's side has to mess with the price to adjust for fixes on the house that the buyer will have to deal with. Fun stuff like that. Different parties at work being kind of fucky. It's great. Isn't the real estate market great?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why. The room I'm currently sitting in has like a 1 or 2% grade. And,
Yeah.
and also, it's like a manufactured home, right? So there's also just different things that go into manufactured homes versus like, I forget what it's called. It's like built to... I can't remember. This is a manufactured home. It's not like a standard built from the ground up kind of home. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different things. Like getting our new water heater, we had to put in a lot of money because they have to, like, the water heater itself is super cheap. The amount of experience, or like the knowledge on how to replace it, the tools needed, and also like when you have someone install something for you, they also need to get a permit for it. Like, it took our $500 hot water heater that we were installing to like a $2,700 installation. And the guy also had to like, there's a lot of things he had to fix from the last guy. So I'm kind of glad it wasn't an hourly price for it, because he might have ended up charging more, because he was here for like 4 or 5 hours.
God damn. I mean, I expected to take a decent amount to install a water heater. Like, I actually hope that the process takes a while to install something like that, if it makes sense. Just like, I feel a little unsafe if getting a new water heater was like a quick 20-minute job.
Yeah.
I feel a little like, are you sure? Is that pipe gonna burst? Like, is it fucked up? Are you gonna flood my, like, whatever room my water heater is? For me, it's my garage. For you, it's your closet.
Yeah. In our master bedroom too, so you know,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. Anyway, let's move beyond the topic of talking about my house and all the problems I had.
Yeah, we should talk about Pathfinder.
Let's talk about Pathfinder and the topic what I'm sure a lot of people are here today, which is, will Pathfinder ever get big? Now, it's something that, like, what is big, right? Because D&D is big, but D&D wasn't really big until like after Wizards of the Coast, and even after Wizards of the Coast did, it wasn't really big until pretty much Critical Role took over, and then it showed up on Stranger Things as well, and it just got a lot of marketing success, and now it's what you would consider big, you know. So a 50-plus-year-old game at this point finally got big after many decades.
Yeah.
And it's always been like a cultural like phenomenon, because D&D is, you know, it's very prevalent. It affects many different things, and it's
very prevalent.
Like, even video games as what we know them have a lot of basis in like D&D.
Yeah, if you read a lot of game dev stuff, I do. I think the process of game development is really interesting, and I want to hear about that stuff. I've been looking into RPG stuff recently, just reading about it. The two that I keep getting hit with, and one I did recently because I keep remembering a story from it, Kingdoms of Amalur, Reckoning, are now Re-Reckoning, and Morrowind. Both of those games, like one also just, Kingdom of Amalur is very inspired by Morrowind, but both those games like pull from specifically, they say like, oh yeah, there's some D&D elements in there. I mean, even more for Kingdoms of Amalur, since R.A. Salvatore wrote a bunch of shit for the game, who strictly does, you know, Drizzt, for everyone who doesn't know. And yeah, a lot of those games, especially a lot of older RPGs, like PC stuff, takes heavy inspiration from like Dungeons and Dragons and like Pathfinder, or at least like 3.5 back in the day. You can just feel it. Or even for a fun fact, if you play the Knights of the Old Republic, like old BioWare RPG, not the MMO, and you look at the character sheet, it's literally D&D. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, you know how the character sheets fit. I was like, when I first played, I'm like, this is 5th edition. Like, what the fuck? Because everything is based around like D20 rolls in that game. It's a good ass game, but like, yeah, it's a lot of those old RPGs are straight up just inspired by it.
So, like, D&D's always been there, but I wouldn't have even called it a big thing until recently.
No,
when it's
yeah, this is now like it's big. Other than that, D&D culturally has basically been used as a really good narrative device to immediately tell the audience that a character is a basement dwelling nerd. That if you watch any TV preemptive of like 2016, D&D is an insult strictly if it's like in a non-nerdy show. Like
yeah.
that the joke is such and such plays D&D. Because I remember like walking in on my sister watching Pretty Little Liars like in my living room back like I think 2014, 2015, and that I straight up saw that happen of like the some like they need to find some hacker character for some fucking plot point, and they found a guy to play D&D because they knew he'd be a basement dwelling like computer nerd because he plays
Yeah.
D&D.
Yeah, I mean, when I was going to school and everything, uh, it was not considered a cool thing to do D&D or anything. But then again, I didn't care, and I hung out with all the LARPing kids. So, you know, but like
When I was going to
oftentimes
school,
made fun.
it's cool. It was cool to play D&D. We had flyers out about like join D&D club. LARPing was consistently the thing you make fun of.
I mean, it pretty much still is the thing you kind of make fun of.
To be fair, like it looks fun, but then I see videos about it, I do giggle a little. But it's the giggling of like, this looks so nerdy, but these people also look like they're having immense fun. This is just a less like, it's just a different version of paintball, if we're all being honest with ourselves. This feels like the exact same experience as paintball.
Swinging boffer weapons around is always just fun, and then you get into a community of people who are like hardcore into it, like making great axes or things out of foam weapons and all that kind of stuff. And like there's also subsects of it as well, because of course there's the people who enjoy just like the physical aspects of like the sport of boffer weaponing weapons.
I think that'd be the thing I'd fuck with the most, to be honest.
I mean, that's like the thing, right? Because the roleplay stuff is kind of fun, but it's always done like half-baked because everyone's poor. So, yeah, you know, it's just like you do what you can do, you have fun, but the actual fighting is legitimately fun, and it just kind of it's on a scale where you kind of land. I did it for many years before I just moved to an area that didn't really have it, didn't have time to do it, work, go in college and all that. So, but yeah,
I would learn. I would basically do what Guts did in Berserk and get a bigger and bigger like greatsword, like foam greatsword, going up and up, training and getting real strong, and then I'll have just a foam dragon slayer that I'd go to LARP, and people would be like, "Oh, that's not even a weapon; it's just a sheer hunk of foam," and then they'd be all intimidated.
But yeah, so tabletop has been a very recent thing. I mean, I graduated from high school in 2010, so anything like after that is relatively new as far as what tabletop has been like. And so D&D finally gets there, right? And even nowadays, it's something that people are kind of very so cautious about. If you talk to people who are not really into D&D or tabletop in general, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen it, it looks kind of fun, but I don't know if it's for me, you know? There's still a level of wariness, but I would say to a degree of success, it's become big. So now we have to talk about Paizo, and Pathfinder specifically, which was a shoot-off of D&D. Now, whether it is or is not, I think depends on the community in the end. Because that's kind of what video games did, right? Because we might not know nowadays, but there was an era where playing video games was seen as nerdy, and being like a pro gamer was a fairy tale. Like, it happened for a few games. You heard about like StarCraft tournaments or whatever, but it wasn't really a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And only really, really nerdy people really knew or even thought about it. Cut to, Yeah, right now every kid thinks they can be a Fortnite star. And yeah, cut to current era where we now have predominantly most like of the biggest content creators are gamers in some variety or form.
Yeah. And it's kind of nuts growing up, specifically hearing it, because I mean, I assume you could attest to it a bit more. But at least in my schooling, I remember it was stories from older kids or like people in my life being like, oh yeah, gaming was like a really frowned upon thing. Like you were nerdy, and nerd was an insult, you know.
Yeah,
That
nerd
whole
used to be an
style
insult
thing.
as well in my
Yeah.
lifetime as well. So
And playing video games. And then in my schooling, it was okay, gaming isn't nerdy, but only if you're playing these certain games.
right, yeah,
Because in my school, it was very heavily, do you play Halo or do you play COD? That was the big like game changer. And to be cool in my specific style elementary school, like 4th grade and on, you had to be playing COD. If you were playing Halo, you were a fucking loser. And then as it went on, eventually also just like there's a stigma around playing single player games in any regard. I knew a kid who bizarrely was like, I never play single player. Single player is the worst fucking thing ever. He was a big Uncharted fan, but only Uncharted online play.
interesting.
I was like, what? Uncharted's so good though. What the fuck are you talking about? He was a weird person. He was kind of a fucker. Like that growing up, like yeah, that's just it's kind of been shifting slowly to like become a lot more cool and normalized.
So yeah, and it has, and that's the thing as well, is video games are now a connecting force that just has never existed before. Before, in order to be social, which would lead to being cool because more people knew you and would vouch for you, you had to go to like events, sporting events, concerts. You had to be active like in the social sphere of where you lived, and that's where cool came from. Now, online, cool is how many people know of you, which with TikTok and YouTube and all these kind of things, I mean, it's strange to think that some of the coolest people out there are Minecraft players.
Yeah, right. Like
Right.
they're just insane internet famous, and it's like, what do? Yeah, they stream Minecraft.
So, and even now, even like as you age, things start slowing down, right? Because older and older groups still weren't really into it. So like people who are 10 years older than me are still not necessarily like in that nerd chic thing. It's a smaller percentage. And so when you like become an adult, I met my family in Norway, for instance, and many of my relatives I met there are in their like 50s or so. I'm not 40. They're 20 years older than I'm in my 30s, early 30s at the moment. And they're like, oh yeah, the world's strange, isn't it? When I tell them I do YouTube stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, when you get into this stage of life where I'm at currently, where you get a home, you start getting married and everything like that, there's still people out there who don't really understand nerd culture, really, and kind of judge you based on it.
I feel like a lot of people too, specifically, I don't like the term, but I feel like it's the easily applicable term, the normie culture of stuff, where it's like, you know, very basic things that you'd call normie shit. People who have their idea of nerd culture through Big Bang Theory, because it's just popular sitcom on TV. So I remember my parents' moms watching Big Bang Theory and looking at it and being like, ugh, it's not what being a fan of this shit's like.
Yeah.
Like, or just kind of sitting there and be like, is the joke that they said a comic book series? Is that like that's the joke?
Yeah, and that's so there's so many strange aspects, and to kind of come back around, right? So we are now in an age where tabletop is starting to get more and more popular. Pathfinder was completely unknown. I mean, you can barely find like Pathfinder 1e content on YouTube. It exists, of course, And I'm sure there is a multitude of things, right? Like 1,000 videos or something. But it wasn't something that you would easily see or find or anything like that. It was always very sparse. But now we're getting to the point where we have like Zoran the Bear, and even we're having Alpha Busa, who's doing World of Darkness and all that kind of stuff. So other TTRPGs are coming out and are being done by content creators, and they are doing okay, right? Tabletop RPGs are still in a very infantile state as far as mass appeal is concerned. And whether it gets beyond this point, whether it actually evolves into something or still remains niche, purely depends on content creators and as well the industry like evolving to allow more casual people to get into it and enjoy the hobby, as it were.
Yeah. Because I see that as the biggest roadblock, the casual market for it, because like the biggest problem, and it's where I don't think realistically tabletop will ever be like as big of a thing as gaming is, because the actual investment you have to make to start up a tabletop is just so much different than like booting up a game. So I feel like for a lot of people it's like, why would I find a weird random group, set everything up, like meet all these random new people who may or may not be weirdos or like kind of creeps or something. Instead I'll just play Baldur's Gate 3. Right. It's like, I want to play D&D, I'll just play a video game of D&D. Like, I think, I hope more tabletop stuff get good video games, because I think that's the best method that they could hit the the casual market. Because yeah, it's so much work to set up a tabletop game.
It is. And you need a GM, and that's even more work. So it's something that has roadblocks. But if anyone's been paying attention, Paizo has been very hot in the market lately. They've been getting new games coming out. I mean, look at Kingmaker. Look at Wrath of Righteous.
3 video games coming out, right?
They have 2 currently.
Okay.
They have Gallowspire, which is a top-down action roguelite. I think it's roguelite. My brain's getting all mixed with information. Vampire Survivor, like there it is. A Bullet Heaven game.
Oh yeah.
That is coming out, which I'm actually kind of stoked for, because I think Vampire Survivor is great, and if they can make a good variant of it, I think it'd be good. There's a ton of clones of Vampire Survivor out right now, though, so it really depends on if they do it well. But I think a Pathfinder one would be interesting and good. I think there's a lot to be done there, so I think it has high possibility. Then they're coming out with Pathfinder Abomination Cults, which is more of the top-down, like Diablo-esque style game, action RPG game.
Significantly more interested in Gallowspire. It's just because I don't like Diablo-style games, like, at all. But I mean, it looks interesting from what, like, apparently that game is gonna have like combo stuff with your friends of different attacks going through each other to do different things.
Yeah, it's kind of got like an X-Men Legends. Yeah, X-Men Legends kind of deal.
X-Men Legends, and then the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games.
And I very well might end up doing some of that kind of stuff on the channel, even though it kind of goes beyond the scope. If people want to see it, if people in the Pathfinder sphere are very interested in it, I might do some stuff on it. And, you know, it'd be kind of a nice change of pace content-wise as well, you know, having something that's a different genre to kind of fiddle around in a bit.
If too many people in our friend group get that game, I would play with y'all. if it's just you or something, like, actually no, if we have a not even that, if it's just like the entire, like, we're gonna get a 4-person game going, fuck yeah. But if it's like a thing we play and then like don't touch again, I don't know. I would never. It doesn't look like a game I'd enjoy single player at all. I want like a full party, you know? Because I want all that crazy like attack melding shit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not particularly interested, but if it gives me a chance to kind of like freshen up my content a bit, sure, totally. If anything, it's good for me because it'll feel fun to do something different. So it's it's something that I'm keeping in mind, of course, but also you can look at Alchemy Labs, which is like a map generator tool you can use for TTRPG stuff, and is looking to kind of like be a engine for you to play your games in. Recently, Pathfinder and Paizo has come out with a augmented reality collab.
Oh yeah, I saw a tweet about that. Yeah, I didn't look into it, but I saw a tweet of it and was like, oh, interesting.
Mirrorscape, which is, you know, very interesting, and it is something that could, you know, revolutionize. So Paizo is not dumb, and the best part about Paizo is run by nerdy people. The people who run Paizo are also the people who made Pathfinder First Edition, you know, and had a lot of input in Second Edition as well.
That is the thing that sets it apart. It does feel like Paizo's ran by, or at least, yeah, is run by people who actively play Pathfinder. So it doesn't have that weird disconnect like Wizards of the Coast has.
So, that being the case, we have a company that's been doing better and better, and is investing in things that are improving the hobby as well as expanding it out to more casual channels. And now the case that Pathfinder might overtake Diablo, Dungeons and Dragons might actually happen. Because even though they don't have Wizards of the Coast money, they have smarter people calling the shots, who are doing things that people actually want and not fucking things up like D&D has been very, very frequently. So now, granted, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out, and that's going to be a huge win. And I'm going to play it because I have the game already, so why would I not play it? And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be hard because Remnant 2 comes out like on the 25th. That gives me like, I don't know, 8 days before Baldur's Gate comes out. We'll see. I'm really excited for Remnant though, so I'm probably gonna play more Remnant until I at least beat it to death, and then go to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I'm very interested. The more I see about Baldur's Gate 3, I'm like, damn, you're making a really long, complicated RPG. And then I keep thinking the level cap is 12. I'm like, that, so I can level 12 times in that sounds really like boring. That sounds kind of like, sounds like it's just going to be really slow paced and like actually doing the cool shit.
For what? Sorry?
For Baldur's Gate 3. Because like, they keep talking about how like, the game's going to take like hundreds of hours, there's millions of voice lines, like all this shit, like all these quotes about how much shit is in Baldur's Gate 3 and how long the game is, and I'm like, I can level up 12 times.
Yeah.
Like, 12's the level cap.
But the thing about it is they understand this because Larian made, you know, Divinity.
Divinity rules.
And so they understand this. Items are going to be a really big thing. Like when you find items, they're actually going to be very impactful. And as well, they've input into Baldur's Gate, because I've been keeping up on some of the new stuff. They've input into Baldur's Gate a lot of tabletop like shenanigans you can do. Like when you get to Baldur's Gate, there is a news company that will post stuff about what your characters are doing. But you can also sneak into the news post office, take it over, and adjust people's opinions of yourself doing by taking over the newspaper, which I think is hilarious and interesting.
That's really funny. Yeah, because if that's just what the game's gonna have, just like weird D&D level problem solving shit, yeah, cool. I'm hoping it's fun. I know I'll have fun because 5e Paladin. That's all I care about.
I think genuinely it's going to be a really good game. So
I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of. I mean, the demo is fun. Like the beta, like I enjoyed it. I just haven't played much of it because like I don't want to replay the beta over and over again every time they update it. That and they just
true.
aren't
Same.
gonna release Paladin until the game drops or something.
So, plus everyone who's touched the game has been like, this is low key, probably game of the year material. Everyone who's touched it. And
I mean, the actual star power of it too. J.K. Simmons is like the main villain or something.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I love that man.
Granted, there's some that say like, we don't know if it is because it's in kind of a niche genre of gaming. So, of course. But everyone who's touched it has been blown away by it. And they say that a lot of the stuff in the early release does not really show off well what the game actually is. And the game doesn't actually take off until like Act 2. So I will definitely try it out. I will definitely play it. Again, I already own it, so why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And if it's good, it's good. And I can be happy. If it's not good, whatever. I'll probably still enjoy a good amount of it still. And then Armor Core will come out, and then I'll just lose my life to Armor Core. So, I'm fine. Armor Core is going to take over my life and no matter what anyway, so
yeah.
I got nothing to lose.
Oh, cool. They have multi-classing in Baldur's Gate 3 and respecking as well.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So, obviously that's a win for D&D, but D&D has been coming out with a lot of, well, also, I would say the movie, even though it didn't do well in the box office, the movie was actually genuinely pretty good. So
it was a good movie.
But D&D has been dropping the ball, especially on the TTRPG side of things. They got people working on the game who are obviously being conflicted with like orders from higher up. They're trying to make the game more interesting. They're definitely taking a lot of stuff from Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And, I mean, fair. You know what? Fair. They are able to do so. And if anything, if D&D 5e becomes as good as Pathfinder 2nd Edition, I literally have no complaints. Because it just makes a more fun game for more people. But, whether the higher-ups allow it or whatever, I mean, the TTRPG scene has already been pretty shaken as of this year especially. And Paizo is doing everything they can. They're making all the right calls and doing a lot of different things to make Pathfinder stand out and to make the game good. I mean, the game is so brilliantly designed. 2nd edition Pathfinder, I would say, is mechanically the best TTRPG in this space as of right now. So,
agreed.
If that changes, you know what? I hope it does. I hope an even better game comes out. Why would I not want that? Even though I've made I'm wearing a literal Pathfinder shirt right now with Valorous on it. And if another game came out, I would just switch to a different game. Easy as that.
Yeah.
So, I want TTRPGs to do well. And I like Pathfinder a lot, so I'm doing a lot of stuff on Pathfinder. But I'm in no way beholden to Paizo or Pathfinder as far as my own desires and ambitions. So, if a better game comes out, I'll be doing that. But as of right now, I'm making content on Pathfinder. Also, Lancer content. Man, it's been so good. Even though the Lancer content legitimately is hurting my channel every time I put it up there, all the comments that people were like, thank you so much for making this video, I've been waiting for it, has been very nice. So.
It's good to know that they're out there, people playing Lancer for the first time and being like, oh my god, finally a tutorial. Because there's not much like out there.
No, you have Dragon Kid, and so many people cannot get over the robot voice for it.
I can't.
So, and I get that, right? So it's whatever. It's something that I'm happy to do, and I'm doing it out of my passion and love for TTRPGs more than I am for my, like, I talk a lot about being hyped for my YouTube channel, and I very much am dedicated to it. But TTRPGs are still my first and primary goal as far as my content creation. So that's why when I say, is it possible? Yes, I would say that Pathfinder 2E has a possibility of claiming the top TTRPG space. Whether it does or not, though, is, I think, highly unlikely in the end. Because no matter what, D&D is going to be able to draw more people in. I mean, when you understand that YouTube is powered by children, because children watch content on YouTube all the time and have infinite time, it feels like, to put into watching YouTube, it makes you understand how much the casual audience means to any particular product. And I'll be the first to say it, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is not a casual game. It's not.
No, it's not.
It requires a level of investments that you can't just like pick up, try it, and enjoy it. You have to want to like Pathfinder. And you know what, Unicats as well, that's another thing, right? I don't think Paizo has the money to like do an animated thing. Or if they do, it's not going to be that well done or that long. I would love to see it.
Like an animated short film, it's like maybe like 10 minutes. Like a short thing. I can see that happening because it's so expensive to make that.
It is.
And right now, kind of very difficult with two of the main guilds you'd have to work with on strike, but you know. It would be fun, like the actual, like, oh, I'd love to see like the art style of the Pathfinder like books and stuff in motion.
That would be really cool, yeah.
It'd be very cool. It looked very distinct and striking. Though I will say for this entire like discussion, all I've been thinking of like, will Pathfinder like ever get big is like, maybe, but I don't know if I want it to.
Someone said that earlier, yeah, so explain.
Yeah, because I don't think I want another D&D 5e. I don't want another game that comes in and is the market, is the monopoly, because I'd rather just be an industry that is a bunch of different games that feel like they're on equal footing. Like that's what I want. I don't want, like, if D&D collapses, and just that would be actually really high. It should, if made by anybody, they can do it well. If D&D like crumbles, they just cease to exist. I don't want another game taking its spot. I want the industry to take its spot.
I agree. That's kind of why, like, if you watch any of our prior table talks, I've talked much about the idea of something like Steam for TTRPGs, right? That where an indie scene kind of comes up to the point where it even rivals AAA titles. Legitimately, over the last even 5 years, indie games have been coming out and crushing on the market. Granted, they have the benefit of there's so many, and big industries are so few that they're more likely to get hits. But it's because we have something like Steam where these games can be found very easy, right? That's why I agree with the statement that it would be better overall if Pathfinder was just one of many that you could go and do. The reason why I like the idea of Pathfinder kind of overtaking D&D is because I want to see a company that has actual game players and nerds in it running it actually like pilot the scene in a sense, rather than the execs at, you know, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, who've been kind of running aground lately with D&D content.
Yeah, if there were a company to do that, Paizo would handle some of that pretty well. My worry is mainly the thing too of say, yeah, D&D collapses And then Paizo takes the spot. He's like, all right, guys, we're D&D 2. We're the next one that everyone gets obsessed with. Critical Role has a Pathfinder 2nd edition game, all that. They're going to have to expand their company. They're probably going to have to bring people in. And at certain levels of like corporation, I don't think that'll stay true. Because like you have to bring people in on who are very business-minded. And that's what they're focused on. They don't care about fucking nerds and games, as long as they're paying them. So like Pathfinder could become the next like 5e Wizards of the Coast thing. You know, book progress would slow down, like all that. Because the fun of Paizo is that like, yeah, everyone plays Pathfinder, everyone enjoys it. Books come out fucking constantly. And yeah, imagine how heartbreaking it would be if like years down the line we have a Paizo like direct and it's basically just a giant ad for like toys and shit like the D&D one was. Imagine how heartbreaking that would be.
Right, I agree. But see, that's kind of the thing, like that's also what set up the indie scene for video games, is companies keep coming up. Like Blizzard at one point was a reputable company of people who are passionate about the scene of video games, and now we see Blizzard today. And many big companies kind of do the same thing. It's because of their fuck-ups that indie gaming becomes so much more desirable to people. And am I in some way saying that I hope Paizo succeeds to fail? Yes. But it's because you need that whale fall. You need that seedbed of failure for indie to like succeed. Because the only reason why anyone ever would go to indie is they're getting something in indie that they're not getting at the premier markets, you know? And so how do you do that? Because they can't compete in budget, they can't compete in like design, they might be able to compete in mechanics, but you know, even that like is hard to do. So what would be the benefits of indie? Well, the reason why indie succeeds now in the Steam kind of era is that when a good game comes out, people will find it because people are tired of games not working when they are sold like at date, and they just want something that works well, that plays well. And you get these people with a good vision who look at what the market is doing wrong and fixes those things that make something interesting. And not only that, but for cheaper very often. So if tabletop gets to a point where there's so much more money in the scene because there's bigger companies who are kind of investing into it and more people are buying stuff, it will allow for cheap TTRPGs who need to sell cheap in order to stand out, but it's due to that cheapness that they can succeed and actually make the money that they deserve because people are looking for cheaper, easier options that are actually well designed.
I think the main thing is, yeah, there just needs to be a really good platform for publishing like tabletop content, because like, yeah, like I think a Steam for tabletop would be really nice, and honestly could just be fixed by the simple thing of just drive-through RPG making a better website. Because good lord, like their website functions fine. I've bought stuff through drive-through RPG. It's good. It looks like shit. It is the most like old internet ass thing I've ever looked at, and it's just like browsing it isn't interesting at all. It feels like I'm just looking. It feels like you're looking just like a web page, but like, yeah, if it was like an interestingly like designed storefront that had a lot more prominent design elements to pop out, the name, the art, like literally a Steam page for tabletop stuff would just be really cool. Like pictures of like the actual game, like some of the rule pages, a well-written description stuff, like just a nice sleek thing, instead of I don't want to like buy tabletop PDFs on GeoCities, you know?
Right.
That's not my vibe. And that's, or even like if that can branch off to like maybe a situation where they can make more money of even being an avenue for people to like print books. Like that's really expensive, like actually printing and shipping books, but something, if it gets popular, could even be like as made to order situation stuff.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good process. The publishing part of like actual physical like media would be a lot harder and cost more money, but there just needs to be a good, well marketed and well designed storefront for tabletop games.
yeah. And the thing is something like that can only come about when the tabletop scene has enough interest in buyers' interest, more or less. And that's why TTRPGs are currently super leaning on Dungeons and Dragons, and Paizo to some extent as well, is legitimately now more than ever people are buying TTRPGs. And not only just because population and obvious increase and all that kind of stuff, there is legitimately more interest than ever now. And a lot of that is due to like Critical Role, but a lot of that is also just D&D making a movie, getting their content in Stranger Things, all that other kinds of stuff. You need big companies to make a scene for indie to succeed. Because tabletop has always had an indie scene. It's always existed. For as long as tabletops have pretty much existed in the market. But we don't know about it, we don't hear about it, we don't see about these really cool games because you don't have enough money for, like, Drive-Thru RPG, right, is a good site you mentioned because it's not changed literally in like the 10 plus years I've used it, and that's because there was no point. TTRPGs just didn't make money. It was not lucrative.
Yeah, it's a site it feels like a site designed to like, you go to Drive-Thru RPG with the idea of buying a specific book. I don't see the main tabletop market browsing Drive-Thru RPG for fun, like you could do for Steam. Because sometimes we'll just browse through some of the new games on Steam. Because you know what? Yeah, I mainly play indie titles. I recently, for anyone on Discord who's seen it, I recently played through Cruelty Squad, and like I'm on the last level, like the actual last ending. This game fucking rules. It's so good. But yeah, I primarily play indie games because like they feel interesting and well done and like cool. And then a lot of AAA titles, I'm like, They're just like, they're too big and they're too like expansive, and I'm like, I don't want that. I just want like a nice like 10-hour experience sometimes. But yeah, it just, there's no fun browsing Drive-Thru RPG. I've tried to browse some indie stuff. It's like, it just, nothing pops out. Then on Steam, I'm like, ooh, wishlist that, wishlist that, wishlist that. That looks fun. Ooh, that's coming out soon. Ooh, I'll wishlist that.
And as well as like, you need incentive in the market. And right now, even now, there's not a lot of incentive for anyone who's not Paizo or D&D to get into the market, because there's just not a wide appeal for anything indie. And TTRPGs are something that I feel are like video games, where at first when they were coming out, people just didn't understand them. People didn't see like how they could be fun, and it just wasn't a really big thing. But now video games are everywhere. Everyone is doing them, and they're super accessible. And to be fair, right? Something to think about. Old classic video games, if you were to produce those nowadays with like the level of, even let's say like clunkiness, right? Everything else, let's say, is like graphically up to date, but clunkiness, people wouldn't be as interested in those games. The reason why video games have gotten so good nowadays is literally because they've been made easier to access, better user interface, all this other kind of stuff as well. And you know what really needs that? TTRPGs. TTRPGs need that level of innovation to make it easier to play, easier to set up games, easier to connect. Because legitimately, what we have now is kind of garbage, alright? Like, Roll20, everyone already despises. Foundry, everyone is super hyped for, but it requires so much effort on the person running the game to set everything up. It's a little much.
You have to be really motivated to want to like set up Foundry. everyone I see shilling Foundry are like, oh yeah, like I'm actually really technically like skilled and I understand like coding and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's the reason why you think it's cool. It's what you have to do. I don't know how to do it, and I don't like doing it. I've done a bit of programming. It fucking sucks. I can't stand it. I would never want to do that.
So there's so much that still needs to be innovated in TTRPGs. And there's so much more accessibility that still needs to... There's still more accessibility that needs to be there. There's still so much more that has to happen in TTRPGs before I feel like they can come out. But I feel like TTRPGs can be something that people can invest in and can have a flourishing market, because it wouldn't have been as successful as it has been without it. People obviously enjoy TTRPGs. Look at all you nerds here today. Look at all the nerds on looking up D&D videos. That we're still ever closer to getting a non-Critical Role, non-Dimension 20 channel with over 1 million subs. You know, like, there is enough of a desire in the hobby to make a market out of. Will it ever truly be as big as video games? No. I don't think there's any method to make it viewable or watchable for your average person, you know. It doesn't mean we can't have our Critical Roles. There can be another channel that comes out that's as good as Dimension 20 or Critical Role, you know, have a variety of networks, all that kind of stuff. We can still have that in the content creator scene. Hell, I mean, I think Zoran the Bear does really good content with what he's done. Even though he's not the GM, but still, like, the people he's brought on and the production value is interesting. And
he's certainly making some of the best actual like live play stuff I've seen. It's very stylistic and like looks visually great. Mm-hmm. And the content from what the only Zoran the Bear like actual play thing I've seen is their Wrath and Glory campaign, but it's also held back by I don't like actual play content. I find it really boring.
True, and I mean, I'm kind of the same to some degree. I've watched all of pretty much the first 2 seasons of Critical Role, so I put in the hours, but it's not something I'm looking for often.
I've seen up to like episode 20-ish of each season 1 and season 2 of Critical Role. Then I kind of lose steam.
That's a lot of time, though, honestly.
It is. I keep trying, and I'm like, man, this is a lot of fucking effort. And then I get distracted by something else.
Yeah, for sure. But there are plenty of people who do enjoy it and do watch it regularly, religiously. So I think it is marketable. I think we can get to a point where TTRPGs, if anything, can be a thing that you enjoy and watch and participate in easily and frequently. You know what I mean? If you don't like TTRPGs, I think that's fine. I don't think everyone has to like TTRPGs. You know what I mean? But I feel like there's enough people who do that we deserve a market. We deserve a place where we can go to find new games. Especially because, you know what? I'll say it here out in the open. I'm greedy. I want this to happen because this is something that I would enjoy thoroughly. I want a market. I want to be able to find new TTRPGs to try out. I enjoy playing new TTRPGs, discovering them, finding out their mechanics. I love the act of narrative gaming. I think it's really fun. I think the act of telling a story with your friends, kind of getting into character, and the mechanics of those games can be really, really enjoyable. Which why I've dedicated, like, I've not gotten tired of TTRPGs in 20 plus years of doing them. I think is something I'll probably do till the end of my days, you know.
Same.
So, you know, I think that the market is possible, but I understand that there are a lot of hurdles, and it's something I keep saying and I never elaborate on: content creation, right? I think content creators are legitimately where TTRPGs are going to rise or fall. in the end. Because if you make TTRPGs easy to get into, it will draw an audience. I agree. If the market becomes lucrative enough that more indie can come into the scene, I think more people might get interested. I agree. But you know what really works? You know what worked for video games? Content creators. Legitimately, people who become famous for video games in any sense. At first, it was legitimately the pro players. Pro Smash, pro StarCraft, pro League of Legends. All those people were kind of the first stars of gaming. And then we got to streaming and content creation. And now we have legitimate Minecraft channels who have millionaires or billionaires even potentially. I don't even know. I think millionaire. I don't think they've quite hit the billion mark yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was, you know. Fortnite got super huge. I mean, we're in an era, right? This it always baffles me. We're in an era where Fortnite streamers are being signed onto companies for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Fortnite.
It's a lot.
I remember playing Fortnite when it was still a PvE game where you had to fight zombies.
I never played that form. I remember playing Fortnite a couple times for one day because my friend and I were farming a single win, and then the moment we got our first victory royale, we never touched it again. So we won. But yeah, now look at it.
Yeah, right? And that's the thing, right? Is like, we don't watch Fortnite. We don't do anything Fortnite. And yet, there's someone in that area who made $100 million getting signed on, probably owned, or has made way, way, way more than that, right? So even if we're not interested in Fortnite, there is a market for Fortnite. So don't let people be like, I don't think enough people are interested in TTRPGs to make it a thing. They can be. If we make content creators do it well enough that anyone can get hyped about it. Because, right, here's what TTRPGs offers. Imagine a game that you can play any character you can imagine. And you can have legitimate emotional interactions with characters in that game. And the narrative is tailored to your character.
That would be sick. I'm hoping Baldur's Gate 3 is the first step in that direction, but yeah, it'd be dope. And God, it's like the thing where I'm like, I wish at some point, I don't like AI stuff at all, but like a video game tabletop version with AI stuff, damn, I kind of want to play that though. I kind of just want to have like my own custom story in a system. It'd be kind of fun, just something I can like lean back and just kind of casually play through.
I mean, there's that for sure. I was talking about actual tabletop where you're playing with the GM, you know.
Fair.
I mean, you personally, I know, because I was the GM, have had some legitimate emotional scenes in TTRPGs.
Yes.
And
a lot.
You're still here today, and I'm sure you're still searching for those games of like a very unique experience. Finding something out, having a really good character, or, you know, a really good story for a character. I mean, from your D&D game, from everything I've heard, you've had a very exciting journey through
Jesus,
D&D.
Yeah. It's a good ass campaign, and it's also like it is still D&D. I'm just now on the end of a pretty big arc for my character. And like, yeah, it's great. You can have those experiences in a lot of different games, despite the quality of the actual core system.
Yeah, and so that is something that I feel is an experience that people desire. You know, we live in an era where people watch anime all the time, where people have fantasies, hero movies, all this kind of stuff. People want that I'm special kind of vibe in a game, right? And TTRPGs are the best place for it.
Definitely, because it's a very internal system. You can tell really good stories, and a lot of times just like if you can get a group together that's very invested, people who are very good at what they're doing, you can tell a fucking blockbuster hit, you know?
Yeah.
But or you can just have a nice dungeon crawl, just pen on paper, like making your own adventure where you rip off like a movie you just saw. You know, you have the whole range. And also, with what you're talking about, Alemi, Dimension 20, they're the only like actual like edited with for pacing actual play I've watched. And I'm like, dang, this is pretty fun because it's actually enjoyable and isn't like hundreds of hours. Each session is like 2 hours.
Yeah,
it's like obviously edited down.
Yeah, and I think the more TTRPGs kind of go on in the content creation sphere, the more people will hone down on what is a successful TTRPG channel, and we'll get it out. And I'll also mention here, right? I think your scope is a little small because TTRPGs have flourished under not watching live plays. A lot of it has been just content creators talking about the game, the things they enjoy, broken builds, all that kind of stuff before. I mean, legitimately, I have watched more videos on a game I've wanted to play about someone talking about how the game plays or ideas, strategies, or whatever, than I've watched people actually playing the game. And I think that's pretty common, right? People are not necessarily interested in watching someone play the thing they want to play. Of course, I've done that too. I've watched plenty of Let's Plays on games. But for a lot of games, I've also just watched like helpful tips and tricks, things for the game I want to do, and TTRPGs are no different. And even now, I mean, a lot of channels are based on that. I mean, Zibashu, hell, even Puffin Forest, technically. Mr. Rex is all about lore from TTRPGs, for goodness sake, you know? And the TTRPG scene can be made of things that are not about the actual TTRPG, but can get people still hyped about it despite not being like a live play. You know what I mean? I feel like...
Yeah, I think it's interesting because from just my own experience talking to people, talking to like casual stuff, seeing just what my nerdy friends watch, when they're getting into tabletop for the first time, they watch a lot of actual play stuff. Then the moment they kind of are, that's when they move on to content about the game rather than actual play. Because consistently, I see the people who are like, at least in my like actual circle, like nerdy circle, not just talking about like our friend group.
Anecdotally,
yeah, it's people who are like, yeah, I used to watch a lot of Critical Role, but I don't anymore because if I really wanted to, I just play D&D. Because like I have a group, but like when you don't have that group, it's the same thing with like Let's Play content. Like I'm just gonna watch a Let's Play this game. I'm never gonna buy it. I'm just gonna watch them play it. I feel like that's the different level. I think actual play is like the entry point. It's the entry drug, and then it hits, and you're like, oh, this game looks so fun. These guys make it look so good. I mean, literally a bunch of just professional voice actors played D&D in such a cool professional like quality way. I mean, professional quality, like, you know, for an early Critical Role that was kind of massively like produced for the time. And then it just impressed people so much they went and started playing D&D. That's what I did. That was me.
Yeah.
I think actual play is like, the start, and then it moves on.
Yeah, and, you know, as well, right? I think live play is just, it has so many pitfalls, but when you get it good, it gets really, really good. And I mean, there was this whole thing on Twitch, literally a few years ago, where a bunch of Twitch streamers were playing D&D with Arcadum. Arcadum thing blew up and that crashed. But there were a lot of people. I mean, Arcadum was becoming competitive with Critical Role on Twitch, right?
It would be cool if there could be another Arcadum that wasn't a giant sex pervert.
Yeah, right? I would love to be that, personally. I would love to take more people through the experience. But, you know, it's something along the lines of, I think enough people enjoy the game. I think the game itself legitimately offers enough. that a market can succeed. And I don't know if it's inevitable, because I'm legitimately, D&D was out forever before it actually became a thing, right? So, but now that that door has been opened, I don't know, maybe that changes. Maybe it is inevitable. But it really depends on the community. It really depends on the content creators, the people to open the doors to a more casual scene and to make it something that people can watch very regularly. Because as much as people like Critical Role or even Dimension 20, it's not like they can get that content like drip fed to them all hours of the day. It just doesn't exist in that level of quantity yet.
No.
So the more people who do it, the more great content creators out there, the more people legitimately will become interested in TTRPGs. And I think there's a market out there. And trust me, right? When it comes to making money in TTRPGs is legitimately easy once you get people into it. Because I'll tell you, when someone starts buying shit for D&D or tabletop in general, they buy a lot. It's either dice or painting minis or dice towers, dice trays. I have so much just paraphernalia of tabletop stuff in general, plus my like record of books of a variety of different games, that you can make a lot of stuff that people want to physically buy and own. And hell, there's shirts, and if more people out there, like I own a Critical Role shirt, and if more big TTRPG sites get out there with more merch, where you can then go and see other people in public who might be into it, I mean, that's a great thing to connect on as well. So yeah. I legitimately think it everything is there. Everything is primed. I think the only thing that needs to catch up are content creators and accessibility in general for TTRPGs. Once those two things are solved, TTRPGs will become a big thing that people, can get as much as they want out of it.
It'd certainly be cool. It's crossing that hurdle of making it worthwhile to make the content on, but also like, oh god, imagine there's also the dark side of that resulting thing, because imagine like the Fortnite YouTubers for like a tabletop game with like the big EDM intros, just making like, what's up guys, today I'm doing like such and such in D&D, and like they have like that really shitty video thing but for tabletop content.
Well, I mean,
funny.
Anything that gets big gets toxic,
Yeah, it'd be funny. It'd just be like, oh god, that'll be a dark day to look at.
I think it'll be a great day because it means it got lucrative enough for people to do that kind of bullshit.
It does mean it's big enough, but like it'll still just be like that. Oh no. But yeah, it's like I hope at least I would love it if something like that happened. It's always going to be the problem of tabletop just is inherently a very non-casual friendly hobby because of the time investment, the effort investment, where a lot of people are just like, that's so much work to do though. I just want to hang out. Like the people who are like, I work really like 10 hours a day. I just want to go home and like relax. I don't want to like learn a tabletop game. You have to be dedicated, and not everyone is dedicated. And even then, a lot of D&D players are not dedicated. I've played with some where it's like, you've been playing this for like 2 years. How do you not know how to make an attack roll?
Yeah, right. I mean, for sure. And then in some people, they just don't learn that way. But I mean, it's like MMOs, MMOs are a surprising amount of work, and yet it still has a pretty big community. Still tons of people. There's so many MMOs that you think are dead who still have a pretty determined like few hundred players still playing the game religiously.
Yeah, there's a company that specifically is like buys up older MMOs and hosts them for those dedicated whale players.
Yeah. So, I like, even though TTRPGs got to that level, I'd be happy.
That'd be a great level for it to reach.
I don't think TTRPGs. I've said it in the past before, but you know, if I want to be real, right? Like, if the ambition isn't overly getting to my head, I don't think TTRPGs will ever necessarily be as big as video games.
Never.
And that's just because, I mean, it's not that I don't think the same amount of enjoyment can be had. I think it's just video games are such a wide genre, you know? But maybe, actually, you know what? Maybe not. I might be wrong. Because there's also been this growing trend of solo at TTRPGs coming out that have been getting people's interest. So, you know, imagine your own TTRPG experience you can do on your own time at home, like a video game, you know?
Yeah, I
Might
mean,
be a thing. AI,
who knows?
you know, who knows?
The other problem, I think, that the reason I also don't think it's going to get, like, massive is because, like, sometimes DMs are just shit. So, like, a lot of people will just are currently playing tabletop with maybe even like games with like, oh, this sucks. The story isn't great. GM's not doing it well. Like, it's the variance of quality of games. Because, like, yeah, eventually, and then sometimes, yeah, you just find that game where you're like, you know what, the game's not the greatest. We kind of don't play it super seriously. The story's kind of but it's us hanging out as friends. And then there are games where it's like public players, like, this is my only outlet. This GM fucking sucks.
Yeah, sucks.
Like, it's the only way I could play. It's like, yeah, that's the other problem. I can boot up an RPG and know for a fact I'm gonna get a banger story and a banger time. If I show up to like public play D&D, I don't know what I'm getting.
Yeah, it's true. And like I said, I mean, that's like I said, one of the things keeping TTRPGs back is accessibility. If we can improve accessibility, I think that'd be better, you know, obviously. And who knows with AI generation, how it will get. Who knows if there might just be like a really smooth, brilliantly designed game, because, you know, you said a few times here today, it's very invested, but like, what if it gets synthesized down to a point where it's no longer such an invested thing, you know? Like, it's as difficult as playing like a board game or a card game. You know what I mean?
If it gets to that point with like whatever tech it has, then my worry is, does it lose the magic? Because like, I enjoy tabletop stuff because it's my friends involved. I enjoy the stories you tell because it's the stories you are telling. If it's a robot telling me a story, I don't fucking care. I don't care what a robot has to say. I don't trust them. But like,
I don't trust the robots.
I don't trust a robot. Like, it's always going to be like that level of. It's the same reason why I'm really I really don't think AI art is going to be anything of note. There'll be people who eat up the slop of like a Chat GPT TV show sitcom, but like, there's no humanity behind it, and you can feel in a product when people give a shit. You can feel it. There's an energy to it, and it's not there when it's AI generated. It's like, that's my worry. Is like, the joy of tabletop to me is almost like you're investing so much time and effort and energy into it, and like, you take away a chunk of that. Does that ruin a part of tabletop?
And here's my answer to this: not all tabletop in the future is going to be designed the same. You can have the same things. You know.
Oh yeah.
There's going to be people who are just like you, who are like, I like the older experience, and then produce content for that kind of experience, you know. So there can be both can exist in the same space.
That's at least my idea of it, is like that future idea of, wouldn't it be so cool if we get to this point? And I'm like, I don't know if it would be cool. I can see people enjoying it. I don't think I'd ever. Because I personally, it's the same reason I can't get into single player tabletop games. I can't give a shit about it because there's no other people around me to have fun with it. I like tabletop because it's a community thing. I don't want to sit at my home with a notebook and being like, yes, I did the thing, yeah. Only I know about this thing. It's like, it's not fun.
Yeah, and see, and that's the thing, right, is I mentioned this, I think, in a prior stream as well, is whenever you say something, people always assume, like, the extremes. So when you scale back, right, it's, if a future exists where we have like AI TTRPGs with AI GMs who might make like a reasonable enough experience that you can enjoy it. There's still going to be people who are like, I'd rather just do it with my friends. I would prefer to play a jankier game. I want to play a game where like, the GM could just say, yeah, you know what, that works, without the AI like being strict about it. And those two things can exist in the same space. It's when we're talking about success, we're talking about success for as many different types of people as possible. So when we talk about these AI games, it's for the people who would enjoy these AI games. When we talk about the success of single player TTRPGs, it's for the people who would enjoy those. Expanding your market to cover as many different types of people as possible, is the reason why you don't like Fortnite. I don't like Fortnite, yet Fortnite is still a thing and exists, and there are still other video games that we like. It's not because Fortnite exists we can no longer play other video games. So
Yeah.
wanting these advancements to happen is to want more people to enjoy the hobby.
It's true. It's just that that degree where I'm like, yeah, the advancement's cool, but it's like the advancement to a step where I'm like, I don't see the appeal. I don't see what's to enjoy about it. Because single player RPGs like Dead Phoenix, sounds like a choose your own adventure book with more steps. I already don't like choose your own adventure books. I thought they were neat as a kid when I first read some, and then I was like, oh, and I just got really bored because I don't care. I just want something specially crafted by another person and enjoying that story. It's that element of it. And also, I guess it's just a thing I've been thinking about with recently. I got a comment that provoked this on my last upload, where I kind of think one of the main draws for tabletop, and largely for wargaming and 40k, but I think in tabletop it transfers too. A lot of the time, there's a special air to these games because of how much effort it takes to be a fan and to enjoy it. So there's always this special level to it. It's the reason why do 40k players take some lore stuff so seriously is I think there's a lot of time, effort, and money you're spending on a specific thing, and to that point, you almost have to justify your purchase. You have to simp for your guys because you spent a stupid amount of money on them, and you spend such a large amount of time painting them up and reading their stuff. It's such an investment that it's so special and tied to you, which I think is very interesting. And I think it transfers over to tabletop games with like you said, everyone has their physical thing. They collect books, they collect minis, they collect dice tower or just dice. I don't understand dice sorting. I can understand mini collecting because I paint 40k minis. But it's that level of investment where I'm like, man, I don't see the appeal of that specific feature. But I had more people in the hobby, and then they're like, yeah, I played a bunch of AI tabletop games, and now I'm like, I want to play with other people, and then they transfer over. That'd be the win state for me, at least. If people was yeah, I got my start with this Steam game for D&D, and then I kind of moved on to in-person tabletop.
In the end, it's just a thing of people need to remember, especially the grognards, it's not all about you. The hobby, how the game is played, all that kind of stuff is not all about you. And the thing is that the more the scene and the hobby itself earns money, the more in general other parts of that scene will be elevated as well. It's something that a lot of your points are, I don't see the point in that, or I wouldn't like that, but someone would, because there's so many people, and because they do, they're gonna bring more people in who might not like that thing but like your thing instead, and it works. Or it's just like Fortnite has elevated streamers to such an absurd degree, but more streamers can exist now because of Fortnite, because people have gotten used to the idea of sitting there watching someone play a game, that they can sit there, watch people do a variety of other things as well. And It's something that I take, like, as a content creator especially, it's something that I think of. Every bit of content you make doesn't necessarily need to apply to your specific demographic. Sometimes I make Lancer content, and it doesn't help my channel. It actually hurts my channel, as I've said before, because that the algorithm sees that and like, oh, they made a bad video. You know, I didn't make a bad video. I made a video for an audience that just isn't that big, but those people super appreciate it. You know, and when it comes to like discovery, sometimes you got to do things on your channel that will get you discovered through avenues that you don't normally traverse. You know what I mean? It's something along the lines of, even if it's like still in your general sphere, maybe it's a type of content that you never thought about before. Like you do Warhammer stuff, and maybe you might do a battle report once or twice, just for shits and giggles, just because it's something different. But it also might attract people who like watching battle reports, you know, and getting to see your battle report, or maybe some people who watch your content want to see a battle report done by you as well, just to see how, like, what it's like when you're in the game, you know. Like, it's something that can create different audiences that exist under the same creator, and it's the same thing for TTRPGs as well. Is sometimes innovation will create versions of TTRPGs that you don't like, or maybe a majority of people don't like, but some people do like. Because honestly, legitimately, I could never do a single player TTRPG unless it's like with an AI that can perfectly mimic human interactions or something like that, where I can have like a legitimate dialogue with something. Because what I like about TTRPGs is like the back and forth. I like the act of interacting with something and getting something back, you know, whether it's as a GM to my player or in the reverse, you know. My ideal TTRPG would be a game that I can discover things in, you know, a game that I can learn about something and figure out how it works in a more organic sense than like math and numbers, you know what I mean? Like, understanding, oh, I can get a special crafting material from this creature because it has this trait is an interesting thing to me. I like the idea of discovery in a game, you know. And that might not be for everyone, and that's completely fair. But that's something that would draw me. That doesn't really exist in TTRPGs, especially because most games don't really have like a crafting system like that or anything like that, or anything you can really just learn about like organically by trial and error.
I think that's a good point. That's the style of like a single player RPG thing that I get down with, is the tabletop version of picking up an RPG and just playing it, and not being like not having the core book memorized before you start playing. Like, you genuinely don't know what's coming next. Like how video games are. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, it's like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Is like, whenever I think of a single player RPG, I'm just like, yeah, like a text adventure. Like the two that I'm thinking of, because one I actually need to play soon because it looks fun, is Road Warden. I got it in a Humble Bundle. It's apparently a very expansive text-based RPG thing. And then there's another fun game on Steam for y'all. The Life and Suffering of Sir Bronte is really interesting. The world's very cool. Not super in-depth mechanics, of course, but it's like, you know, you have that fun of this expanding narrative based on your choices. It's like, yeah, you know what? It would be cool to like play D&D, but not know what your class leveling gives you. Not knowing the stats of every creature. Would be cool if that would be like a method you could do. Because then it does feel like you're actually going on an adventure, exploring something, and like, oh, you get to this town, you're like, I don't know what the fuck this town is. Rather than like, oh, you get to Baldur's Gate, and I was like, I know everything about Baldur's Gate. I've read all the books.
And that's honestly why I'm excited for the TTRPG indie scene, right? Playing more TTRPGs that you don't know everything about, to discover like how they've done things or anything. That's why like Gloomhaven is kind of based on the idea of don't look up anything up, don't research anything. The game is better when you don't know what's coming up next.
Oh yeah, strictly. I could not imagine enjoying Gloomhaven while knowing everything that you could get in Gloomhaven, all the rewards and shit.
Right. And that's kind of what I want in a TTRPG. That's why I want a TTRPG. I've been kind of like building this idea of a TTRPG as well that has buildable elements that when you add new things to the game are parts of that. Like a game where if you see a creature and you see its traits, you know, oh, I can make something special out of its hide or out of the hairs on its body or something like that. I know I can because it has similar traits to other stuff in the game. Or I don't know what this creature is made of, and that makes me excited to actually kind of like look into it. This new thing that was brought into the game now, and because there's something to discover there. Currently in TTRPGs, when you fight a creature, it's like, oh, cool, I wonder what this thing does. I wonder how much of a nightmare it is. And you fight it, and you're like, oh, that was fun, and that's it. But when you get into a game that has a little bit more depth, where it's like, oh, how can I, like, monopolize? Or how can I profit from this encounter? Because you see something that has traits that are like, oh, this is a rare find, you know? How can I do that? Or... especially like I want to create a game where you guys learn, like you could do this in Pathfinder even right now, but instead of saying, oh, you know this as a striking rune, right? Instead the GM's like, all right, you find the item and it has this rune, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what this rune does, or I don't know what this rune does. And then at a later point, you know, after you've identified it and know what the rune is, the GM's like, here's this item. They give you an item with the rune scripted on it. They don't tell you what it does. You have to figure it out based on what the image is showing you, based on the runes, whether you know them or not. You know what I mean? That's the kind of experience that I want, is something that the game doesn't necessarily handhold you to do everything. It gives you the ability to learn those things. And then your experience as a player determines like what you actually know or find out about these kinds of things. That's something interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that would be a really cool concept. See, I can picture that. You're in some game that is a single player RPG, and then you're like, you find this, and it's a sword, and like there actually is a rune on it. And it's like a symbol, and like, what the fuck does that mean? And then like you can discover what that rune means. Maybe like you go to a town, you find a book on like enchantment runes, you have to find it.
And
like, that'd be dope.
I would be legitimately interested in that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially like if it's like significant, right? I don't want a rune that like moderately increases my chance of hitting is something I don't see. Like, give me a rune that when I find it and I look it up, I'm like, you learn a word to activate it, and now the sword is like flaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or I mean, like, I think it'd be a cool thing of and what's being pitched here, without I think fully knowing it, is I kind of just want like a Pathfinder 2nd edition, very immersive life sim text adventure. I want to be. I don't want to be like go on some epic quest thing. It'd be very cool to have a custom-made, custom-generated adventure where it feels like you're genuinely dropped into the center of Galarian. And it's like, all right, well, live in Galarian how you might live in real life. This is coming from me, king of realism hating over here. But like, if it's a game that is literally like, yeah, you're in a real cool fantasy world, but like, gotta live in it like it's a real world, would be interesting, where it's like, oh, I actually have to learn how this shit works.
Yeah, and that would increase levels of immersion, you know. And it's like when you get good at the game, it's because you legitimately learned a bunch of things about that game. That's what I think I'm missing in most games, in any sense, in video game or otherwise, is everything is kind of made so surface level and easy to understand that you don't understand like the actual depth of it or anything like that. Like I said, the whole rune example is a really good example of when you learn that rune as the player, especially, you gain a skill. you learn how to read runes to some degree. And when you find a new rune, that legitimately becomes exciting to you because you don't know what it does. And you're like, what could this do, you know? I need to find a library right now. I need to go to the library and look in some books to find this rune or whatever. And I want a TTRPG experience like that. And I think it's very possible. And especially when you take into consideration that, like, it can be modified, right? Where you play the game all the way through, or you play like a whole campaign, and then you do another one, and the GM can just change the runes and what they mean or do, you know? And you have to rediscover them. Or
literally makes it into that old style roguelite. I'm picturing all my playthroughs of Pixel Dungeon, if any of y'all have gone into that game.
This is also really reminiscent of CUD.
I don't know that one.
I'm sure you do. Something of CUD. Caverns of CUD?
Oh wait, is it that? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I've read it. I've never heard it pronounced.
A QUD.
Yes, that I know that game. I tried playing it and
Caves
I
of CUD,
really
there it
couldn't.
is.
I can't get into ASCII art games. Cause like I'm so bad at, like, I look at it and I'm like, what? I can't understand any of it.
It's a little difficult. I struggle with Caves of CUD, honestly.
I'm also saying this is someone who enjoys Cruelty Squad, which is a game where also you're like, what the fuck am I looking at with this art style? But I feel it's different because at least it's something and not like weird text pixels that it fucks with me.
And you know, a funny Dead Phoenix about that as well. Like when I was envisioning this, because there's a thought I was having recently as well. It's like potions are a really good example of, all right, so you find this potion, right, and you pop off the cork and you describe a smell to the player. It's like, all right, it smells a little bit like it has a solvent in it, or it has like it smells very faintly of this material. It's up to the player to be like, okay, I know that material is a healing material, so there's supposed to be some kind of healing draught. And I know with like the solvent material, the chemical smell, that it is a it's an oil, so you don't drink this. This is not meant for consumption. Maybe it's like a poultice or whatever. Like, I like stuff like that. I legitimately want to get good at the science in the game, of the essence of the game, because it makes that feel so much more real to me, and it's a legitimate skill, like I mentioned before. If you're playing with other people and you get and they're not as familiar, and you get all these ingredients, you could legitimately be like, oh yeah, I understand how this is made, and it'd be kind of impressive to other people. Where like, you remember all that, and it's not like you remember all that as like oh, you remembered all the stat blocks of monsters in the game kind of thing, where you just remembered the information on a page. It's like, no, it's they understand the science in the world, and so those materials, it makes sense how they come together to form the thing. I kind of mentioned this to Alex before, of like, I want to make a magic system where if someone casts a spell, you understand how powerful that person is by the properties the spell demonstrates.
All those properties working together with complex, like, actual magic theory, and you're like, oh damn, I can't fucking do that. Holy shit.
And the
also,
great thing,
I feel like you could add something fun to it, of even in that style of because this is something I really enjoy, of imagine a magic system like that where the actual in like somatic and verbal components lessen as you get more proficient.
mm-hmm.
So that way you have the thing of some dude casting a really big ass fireball with like the flick of a hand, rather than like drawing out symbols in the air, muttering, growing the ball, and instead it's like a snap, boom, magic effect. And then you have that fucking, I mean, it's an anime thing where you have the, oh fuck, okay, he did that real
exactly
easy. I struggled to do that move.
Right, because that's the thing, right? Is in anime that happens, and the viewer has no context for that. It's just like, oh, OP protagonist, yada yada, and all that kind of stuff. But imagine, right, if a game put you in that place of that NPC, of seeing that and understanding the growth, that like the character you're perceiving at this moment, just from something simple like that, just by omitting something that you know should be there, or the like that's what I want in a TTRPG. And the best part about it is it's something that you don't need to have complete mastery of to enjoy, right? If you're not interested in doing alchemy, you don't need to remember the consistency of liquids or the smell of liquids or anything like that. It just doesn't matter to you. You just go to the marketplace and buy them, you know?
Just like in real life.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's something you are interested in, fascinated in, it's something that you yourself can dive into. This is exactly what I like in some tabletops, is you get out of them as much as you dive in. And it's not players aren't prohibited from learning about it, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't learn the runes for weapons, you can just take it to someone who can identify it for you. And then suddenly, that service that's in some video games makes a whole lot of sense as a player. Because you're like, I can't be bothered to remember runes on weapons. I'm just going to take it to someone who can identify it, you know? But if you have a party member who knows it, that party member is suddenly just like, hey Josh, read this. What are these runes? What do they mean? You know? And you legitimately create skill in players rather than just skill in characters, which you have a disconnect from.
The difference of calling your tech buddy to fix a weird problem to taking it to a repair place. And yeah, that reads into the idea of this fantasy version like Uber Eats of, I don't want to fucking cook today, I just want to lay back and not do it. I'm just gonna pay the 50 gold. Yeah, sure, figure out what this is for me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, and you know what? Exactly. Like, that's what I want. I don't want to make a game like so chunky that it's a pain to go through. That's not my goal. I understand that. I don't like when games have like unnecessary pull. I want a game that doesn't treat me like an idiot, lets me figure things out and discover things in the game, but also allows me to bypass those things if it's not something I'm interested in, by, you know, something as simple as investing money or gold or whatever. Or, you know, a game that people like when things are kind of examined and dissected in that sense. It's why, like, on Netflix for a while, there's this big series of like spy shows like Blacklist, where the guy's telling you like how spy things work, and it's kind of fascinating, so you watch it, you know? I just want that for tabletop, where it's just like, yeah, you can learn and it's super fascinating, but if you don't learn, you can still play the game and enjoy it. And maybe you get invested in it because a player just makes knowing these things seems like a lot of fun or really cool, you know? And then it's like we're at the end here. We've gone a little bit over. So what I want to say before we finish is like, you know, Anima Beyond Fantasy, Alex? You know,
the best tabletop game in the market, yeah.
But you know, right, how you guys have played enough of it now that you kind of know some of the things or important people in the setting. And then when you guys come across those things in game, like that feeling, like you know what's going on here because you know of that thing in the setting.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. I want people to have that level of like immersion where the world is fascinating enough that learning about it is genuinely interesting and fun, so that when you come across those things in game, it feels like a legitimate occurrence, event, rather than like a random encounter rolled on the table. You know what I mean? Where you see these people and you're like, what the heck? Because, right, in TTRPGs, for most people, you get to a point and you're like, oh, we fought some slavers here. That was an encounter, and you keep going on. But if it was different, it was just like, what are slavers doing in this kingdom? Right? Wasn't slavery, like, outruled a while ago? Am I misremembering something? that makes fighting a bunch of slavers an interesting encounter, because it might be telling a bigger story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I think that'd be fucking dope. And now I'm like, I want a Galarian life sim. Or just a tabletop life sim. That'd be very fun.
I think that's what I want to do.
I just want to do it on pen and paper. I just want to do it on a video game where they'll actually handle the minutia of it for me.
That's fair. I'm thinking about doing something like this for like future campaigns. Of course, like as much as doesn't make the game take forever or anything like that. But I want to create more reason for my players to invest in the game by wanting to learn things, because it gives them something beneficial in some form or fashion, you know, where your knowledge can actually lead to events rather than like fun facts, you know, that happens in TTRPGs a lot.
Ooh, lore tidbit, this thing, and I was like, oh, I read that passage in the book. Yeah, I've read the source book for this region. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I want it to be something more of like, you guys come across something, and something small is significant because it doesn't belong there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's going to be it for us. Thank you all so much for just letting me sit here and chat about, you know, whatever for the last like 20 minutes. Hopefully this was an interesting conversation about what makes a TTRPG big or not, or what kind of is in the way between TTRPGs. And if you are coming here watching for the first time, which I know some people have been, just know we do TableTalk every Thursday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we have a special tabletop next week, as all the players of our Riptide game are going to be all together doing one big live chat, which I think is going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be pretty cool. I'm just excited. I don't know very much about what you planned, and to be honest, I want to keep it that way, because I just like being hit in the moment of, this is what we're doing. It's like, fuck yeah, cool, okay. I'm more of a...
Well, you know me, I never plan anything. I'm just going to spontaneously come up with it.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Anyway, anything you want to leave us with before we head out today?
If you like Warhammer, go check me out. My name is Glue Boy on YouTube. I make Warhammer 40k content. I will have videos out next week, and I am out of town because of all of the shit I ranted about at the beginning of the stream. If you weren't there, I don't know, watch the VOD or something. Comment like, that sucks, Blue Boy, wish you best, that kind of thing. Yeah, but other than that, I make 40k content. If you want to see that, go check it out. I made a video recently on Conrad Kurz and why he is the best Primarch in the setting, hands down. I'm very happy with that video. I think it turned out very well, and people seem to agree. So, go give that a watch.
Okay. Well, that's going to be it for us. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Be on the lookout. Hopefully some Rage of Moment stuff will be coming out in the next couple weeks. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
But with that, we're going to go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.